they do have one of the top rotations, but the question with the Yankees is going to be, all right, what's going on? Cole obviously had arm issues last year, right? Is he going to be affected by the fact that the Yankees were ready to let him walk when he opted out? He doesn't seem like that type of guy to me. He seems like a more of a bulldog type of guy where he'll basically flip off the Yankees and say, "All right, you be this way. I'll just pitch like this and see what happens." But even though we only had 17 starts last year in 95 innings, his finish to the season last year was fantastic. Um, you know, his his playoff performance was good. His
Yeah.
last his last 7 starts, he struck out 39 batters, walked 13, pitched to a 2.5 ERA. His last 15 starts, which is most of the season because his first 2 starts were terrible and he had 17 starts, he pitched to a 2.9 ERA. So he had a fantastic season once he got settled in, but his innings pitched per start was significantly lower. But that's not the worst thing considering that he was coming off the injury that he was coming off of and missed about 15 starts for the season. But we'll get a better idea. And as Dr. Osti has told us, we'll get a better idea of what his situation is arm wise as they ramp him up in spring training. Do you
Yeah.
think Cole's got to be the top guy and he's going to have to start 30 games?
I think they're going to
Right.
get 30 out of him. I don't think, unless there's an injury
Right.
that's left over from the past. I think he's going to be amazing. I'm not worried at all about. I think this is his last year. That's why I'm so glad they went out and did the Max Fried thing. I think if Fried can, of course, Fried has his own health issues, but I think the Yankees are going to be very, very pleased to have Cole for this year. Next year, and then you'll start seeing the inevitable drop off. But I'm really happy about it, and I don't think he's going to have any impact. I think he knows he's very smart. He's not your normal dumbass ball player. Doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I
This
agree.
guy's got
I
it.
just I
He's
hope they
not
let him get
Stroman who
here.
doesn't show up to opening. He's not Stroman who doesn't show up to
We can
pitchers
get to
and
Stroman
catchers.
later. He's not required to be there
But
till the 22nd. So
come on. Show up when you're supposed to show up, especially since you're showcasing for a new job. You
he's
should
not
be happy. He
showcasing. There's
doesn't
no
think,
games. There's no games to showcase him between now and then.
yeah,
He's
but get
showing
there
up when he's going to show
early.
up.
I totally disagree with you on this, but we'll get there.
Rodon. So let's talk
But
about Rodon, right? So he pitched. He had
you know,
32 starts last year. He didn't miss a
fine,
start.
healthy. He was healthy. That's it.
Yeah.
Healthy. Get 32 starts again. See if he can actually, I like more control. I like to see that strikeout pitch. I'd like to see him a little bit more dominant instead of the too many games where he didn't look good. Again, great games, then bad games. Seems to have head problems sometimes. I mean, he really does.
Well, his ERA,
but I'd love to
his
see it.
ERA was almost 4. I mean, he got 32 starts and only 175 innings.
He should
So
do better than 4. He should be in the 3.5.
But he did strike out 195 guys, and he only walked 57, which is not good, but it's not awful. The biggest problem I have with him is every time he ramps up his innings, he gets hurt, right? In 22, he pitched 178 innings for the Giants, signed with the Yankees, and got hurt. So 24, he pitched 175 innings with the Yankees. Let's see what happens. And even in 21, when he was with the White Sox, he was hurt, but then he came back and was out of control good, pitched 130 innings only in a contract year. Again, with the Giants, 178 in contract year. The only other times, he pitched 165 innings in 2016 and then got hurt. Pitched 120 innings in 2018 and then got hurt in 19. 20 doesn't count because it was the strike year, although he only pitched 7 innings in the strike year. So Rodon he seems to be up and down with this injury thing, so he's got me a little bit nervous. His hits per 9 is also way up, but his strikeouts were up. Strikeouts per 9 was up. And in reality, his playoff performance, he's throwing too many pitches. Well, I'll say the same thing I'm going to say about Schmidt. He's a 5-inning pitcher and he's throwing 100 pitches. That's just not, I know that's what major league pitchers are, but a lot of these guys that are throwing 100 pitches are throwing more strikes and not getting to 3 ball counts and 2 ball counts with every single batter. And it kills me. He threw more
Yeah.
pitches last season than he did in his entire career. And that's not even counting the 24 postseason where he threw even more pitches. So, of all the guys that are injury prone on the team, I think he's the highest risk for injury of all the guys.
Yeah, well, you lived through it in San Francisco, so maybe.
Right. But his
Maybe you're
last
right.
7 starts, of the regular season, while I say that he pitched a lot of innings, his last 7 starts during the regular season were pretty much his 7 best, where he pitched 40 innings, struck out 47 guys, struck out only 13. His WHIP was at 1.14. So there's counter arguments to what I'm saying, but
I mean, he didn't do his postseason sucked. He was a
his
5.6
postseason
in
was
one
not
good
good.
game.
It wasn't good. What's
He's
funny
not
is
a good career, terrible career postseason pitcher.
he didn't walk
Hasn't done
anybody in the
very much.
postseason. That's what's funny to me.
Yeah,
He
but
didn't walk anybody in the postseason. According to Baseball Reference, he pitched 17 innings, struck out 25 guys, and only walked 1, which is great. Problem is he allowed 21 hits and 5 home runs.
So with 21 hits, what was his WHIP?
His WHIP was 1.25, but he allowed 5 home runs in 17 innings. That's not good. So, and he's a left-handed pitcher pitching in the Yankee Stadium, allowing all those home runs. But, I still think he's the biggest injuries risk. He's the most up and down, which is why I think he's the number 3 starter, not the number 2 starter in this team, which brings us to our friend, the guy they gave 8 years to, Max Fried. So if you look at Fried's career, right, he has pitched 165 innings in every full season he's pitched, except for 23, where he had a little bit of an arm issue. So he's been pretty solid and very consistent. A little bit higher ERA last year than previous years. But from a standpoint of, is he going to throw 165, 170 innings and give you 25 to 30 starts? Yep, that's him. He's going to do that. I don't think his arm injury is something that they have to worry about as far as his workload. He had a typical season. His WHIP was slightly up. And he finished the season stronger than he started the season as well. So
I'll take 1.16. That's his career number.
Yeah,
that's not a bad WHIP.
No.
Home runs. How many home runs did he give up last year? Gave up 13.
I haven't given up 7. What are you looking at?
I got 24, 13 home runs given up.
I'm looking at it's a 7. Does that include post? Oh, that's hit by pitch. I'm looking in the wrong column. Sorry, you're right. 13. HB, HR. I got to get my glasses checked, I guess.
Old age sucks. All right, so
he had a good year. Aluminum bat. So he had a typical year, a little bit up on the
174 innings. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, let's just see. His best year is 17 wins and 19. Ridiculous. High WHIP,
I would actually argue his better year was 22.
Yeah.
He threw 185 innings, had 30 starts, and he had a WHIP of 101. Wow. That was his best year. Was 22. Of course, then
is that when he got hurt the next year? So was he healthy last year? What was broken on him last year?
Nothing was broken last year. He had 29 starts. He missed like 1 or 2 starts for whatever reason. Nothing major.
Mm-hmm.
He's he is what he is. He's a good pitcher. Hopefully he's Jimmy Key for the Yankees. Even if he has a low 3 ERA and not a 2.5 ERA, that'd be perfect. Number of years, okay. They gave him a lot of years. I'm not going to worry about that for the time being. Again, no creativity in his contract, but that's just the Yankee way these days. There's no creativity in his contract.
We're in 54. Okay, that's it. It's Goose Gossage number.
Yeah, I'm sure Gossage is not a happy camper. I would say this. There's a little bit of creativity in his contracts because it blows up. As opposed to making it lower, it's actually a lower contract dollar amount annually this year than it will be in later years. But for luxury tax purposes, it's flat across the entire length of the contract, which is 27.25 because of the way the signing bonus was done. But, you know, because really with the Yankees, the only thing you need to look at is the luxury tax number. But
That's right. And what's with the mustache? Another mustache. What's with these guys with the mustache?
What's the difference? Do you see Soto this week said one of the reasons he signed with the Mets is he wanted to grow a beard?
Good for him.
What's funny is I don't know that he can physically grow a beard.
He's only
what? He's never.
I think that's wonderful. Wonderful. Have a great time, buddy. Enjoy right field.
All right,
so love it out there.
Next up is Luis Gil, obviously Rookie of the Year. Now, unlike the other Yankee pitchers, his finish to the season was not nearly as good as his start to the season. This was his first full season in the majors. He threw 151 innings after never throwing more than 96 in any season, including his minor league career. He threw 96 in 2019. He was not good his last 7 starts. He was not very good his last 15 starts. He threw 1,000 more pitches in 24 than he threw in any other season in his career. And they kept him on such a short leash in the playoffs, which was probably appropriate considering how poorly he had been pitching. And in 8 innings in his 2 starts, he had 4 strikeouts and 5 walks, which is not good. His strike percentage, even when he was all season, was 60%. And the strikeout rate of 10.15 for 9 innings was the lowest of his career. So, the guy threw 150 innings after throwing basically none, right? In 23.
Can I ask you a question about him? Did you think he really had? Do you think he deserved the Rookie of the Year? It seemed interesting. He was so good at the beginning, locking. They were talking about MVP, Cy Young for him. He was so good at the beginning of the year. He was the best pitcher in the league for the first 6 weeks of the season,
which is what they needed with Cole out.
That's right. But then afterwards, I never felt that he had a terrible middle of the season, and then he seemed to come back at the end. But
he was really bad at the end. He was bad at the end.
I was really surprised that he won. Between you and me, I'm thrilled that he won. It's great. It was a great season.
I would have chosen him over Wells. And the guy from the Orioles, I don't think it was the strongest of classes, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, but his last few starts were not particularly good. His whip was up. Opponent's batting average was down, but his walks were way up toward the end of the season. So, it is what it is with him. But, pitching as many innings as he did after not throwing more than 96 in any year, and that was in 2019, that gets worrisome. But I will give the Yankees credit, they did not put him on an innings limit last year. The Yankees are one of the several teams that went into the science and said they look at things other than purely innings to decide whether or not a player needs to be shut down. And it had to do with velocity and mechanics more so than anything else, although with his control getting worse over the course of the season, I'm curious as to whether or not his mechanics were actually tight enough. So he's an injury risk, not as much as Rodon, I don't think, but it's kind of scary. He does have a minor league option left if something really wacky happens and they need to send him down. He's got an option left. And then the 5th starter is another guy who was hurt last year, Schmidt, who was unbelievable before he got hurt. I mean, unfreaking believable before he got hurt. Yes, he's a 5-inning guy, and yes, like Rodon, he's throwing 100 pitches in 5 innings, which drives me bananas. Drives me freaking bananas. Which pushes his whip. His whip is up because his walks are up. He threw 90 innings in 2022 and then threw 85 innings last year. And in 2023, he was, what is this? 2023, he threw 159 innings. In 2024, he threw 85 innings. So he's all over the place innings wise. The fact that he was out so long with an arm issue was a little concerning, right? He had 32 starts in 23, but only 14, 16 this year, last year that ended. He was out from May 26th till September 7th.
Wow.
He was out 4 months with his arm issue, and he's always at or near 100 pitches every start, but he only throws 5 innings. His K rate was up in 24, so that's a good sign. But he's the number 5 starter on this team, and he's an outstanding number 5 starter. But he got to stay healthy. Yankees can't afford to have Cole miss 14 starts. They can't afford to have Schmidt miss 4 months. They don't have what we're going to talk about next is the depth. And like I
Can I
said,
ask you a question though? Why? You ever find it interesting? How long was he on the disabled? He missed what, 2, 3 months of the season?
4 months. He was out from May
I mean,
7th,
it's just ungodly. How in the
May
world?
26th to September 7th. So almost 3.5 months.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
which is a big injury for a guy, and he didn't have surgery. Maybe he's Tanaka-esque. Tanaka never had his, he had an injury for his arm, never had Tommy John surgery, and came back and pitched pretty well for a few years after not having his Tommy John surgery. So maybe that'll work for him.